Hi, hello there. Welcome back to C-SPAN. I'm your moderator for today's panel, Aden of Blue Couch Productions, and with me today on the committee is my good pal, Jay Zoomster. How are you doing, Mr. Zoomster?
I am doing quite well.
Seems the last political episode was very much a big hit. People, so we figured, hey, no more Let's Play. Let's just talk politics on C-SPAN with epic Breath of the Wild gameplay in the background.
Hell yeah.
Keep the kiddies interested in the series.
Hell yeah. So we're gonna start today with Go ahead, tell them what we're starting with.
Okay, so first up is the amendment to Williamson Road. You guys may have noticed that there were some potholes on the road, and we got a complaint letter from Mrs. Jenkins. She writes, "Y'all stanky." I think this is my wife. Sorry. Here we go, Mrs. Jenkins. This pothole in the road driving me, quote, cray cray, unquote. Please fix that. So, I'm gonna ask the committee, yay or nay on that. Where do you fall on the amendment to Williamson Road? Yay or nay?
Well, nay.
Nay.
First of all,
Okay.
I think that we can better spend our funds than helping the people.
Right.
I think they are better to go into the economy.
Yeah, I understand.
That's my thoughts
I
on
understand. Well,
the amendment to Williamson Road.
Miss Jenkins will not be happy, but you know what? Neither is my wife and kids, so I guess truly happiness is something I probably won't be seeing for the next 30 years, which is fine. Oh, sorry.
You okay?
I'm gonna need to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's alright.
you oh, she left me. Anyway, welcome back to Breath of the Wild. I'm your host, Aden of Blue Couch Productions. Hope you enjoyed.
And I'm Jay the Zoomster, his lapdog, his slave. I'm playing the game for him. It's his series. So.
Hope you enjoyed our epic C-SPAN coverage. We did promise we weren't gonna do political episodes, but I thought it'd be funny to go.
That was a really good intro idea. I didn't know where he was going. I'm gonna give you a little trade Breath of the Wild secret. 95% of the intros, neither of the other person who didn't come up with it knows what the fuck is going on. It is simply like an improv test to see how they go along with it.
Yeah.
So like the Bladen bit way earlier in the series, Aiden had no fucking clue that was gonna be a thing.
No.
I just started out the episode and I'm like, so Aiden fucking died.
Yeah.
You know, we have his cousin Bladen, so.
JB putting me in uncomfortable scenarios a lot of times.
Well, then you fucking coming in with the Herobrine shit. See, oh fuck, it's Herobrine.
That was funny though.
Bladen was pretty funny.
I don't know about that one. But yeah, we're back with the regularly scheduled goofs and gaffs. Thank you
Goofs
to
and gaffs.
everybody who sat through episode 20 and didn't throw a shit fit. I appreciate that. I know that was kind of a real boy episode with some real boy topics, and hopefully you guys didn't hate it. But yeah, I had a really fun time talking about serious stuff like that. But now we're getting back
to
wacky Breath of the Wild antics. So
pee pee poo poo.
Tabantha Tower gonna be our start.
Tabantha. More like
Clamantha.
Name a badder bitch than Clamantha, right?
You can't. Scientifically.
You really can't. So that's the topic of this episode, folks. Disney Channel shows.
Disney Channel shows? I don't even know if I have 10 minutes of things worth to say about Disney Channel shows. Other than the story I always tell about me having a journal / diary counting down the days to the release of High School Musical 2.
No.
Which is funny in current year, but
Aiden.
You know, at the time, I legitimately was excited for the Disney Channel premiere of High School Musical 2. To the point where I counted down each day. You know, 5th, 6th grade was a sad time, you know. It's the best I can offer for that one.
I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah. I liked it at the time. I don't know if it's good now.
So we need a new topic since Aiden crashed and burned my topic.
what were you? What were you gonna say? Were you not
I
gonna say
don't
that?
know. I got like a couple stories with like the like Disney Channel shows, and
Yeah.
I got really into a couple of them. You know, like they were my fucking crack.
Were you on that Hannah Montana bullshit or not really?
Bruh? Yes, the fuck I was.
Mhm.
All right?
Mhm.
I remember there was one time where we were going to the Department of Social Services because my sister was being abused by her legal father, and we had to, get a divorce hearing and everything. And man, sitting in that government room, all I could think about was, man, I really want to watch Hannah Montana season 4. And because it just got added to Netflix and everyone was hyped for it. And then my mom's over here crying, trying to figure out what her daughter's going to do. I'm like, man, I'm really hyped for Hannah Montana season 4. It's just
the way you structured that entire thing about your family going through the worst times and little Jay not giving an absolute fuck about any of that in favor of a Disney Channel show that, in all honesty, probably wasn't even that good.
no,
I'm
not
gonna be real
at all.
with you.
Not at all.
Hannah Montana probably
like-
hadn't aged well at all.
But like, that's how it be at that age, right? Like, you don't really know what the fuck going on, so you just hype for Hannah Montana.
I didn't find
And,
Hannah Montana herself attractive, but her girlfriend was it Emily Osment or whatever? I don't know who played.
Yeah, Emily Osment. Yeah, she
Yeah,
was a baddie.
She was kind of a baddie. We did some tween simping, as I like to call it.
Ooh, yes, we stand.
Yeah.
We stand. Like, I feel like you and I are in a nice like area,
Mhm.
like age wise, to like have similar childhoods. Cause you're like 22, right?
Yeah, some days.
And I'm 18.
Some days I feel like 48. So it
And I'm
depends.
18, so that's only like a 4-year difference, right? So like we had a very similar growing up area, early 2000s.
Well,
So
I roughly
that's always
have
been
that.
interesting.
Have a similar gap with Zach, but he's older, right? And I feel like Zach be
Yeah.
bringing up shit I've never even fucking heard of.
That's the thing, right? It's like I always like, because sometimes Zach be saying some shit, right? That I think that I like, and then Zach's like over here talking about some other shit, and I'm like, damn, that 6 years really hit different sometimes.
Yeah. Occasionally, Zach will just be saying shit. I'm like, I've never heard of this. Or I'll bring up a show I really liked, and he was like, yeah, I was already too old for that by that point. And I'm like,
Yeah, right.
I
And it's
guess
like-
you were. Sure.
And like, I think that's the difference, is like where our 4 years kind of link up.
A bit
The
closer.
gap between us links up a bit closer, because Zach's 2 years right above you isn't just like 2 years to him. That's like that he was in like a whole ass other grade at some point, right? Like in school. So like it is kind of like a difference that's a little interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm. Well, Zach's a boomer,
And that's-
so we have to kind of.
That's
Reckon with
true. That is absolutely true. But yeah, there's just been a lot of times where like Parker, Aiden, and I will be in a call, and like Aiden doesn't feel that much older than us.
Yeah.
Like it feels like we're all around the same time. Meanwhile, we could be in a call with Zach, and sometimes Zach be feeling like a boomer, right? And I'd be like,
Mhm.
oh, okay.
Well, it also helped too that I watched a lot of like cartoons and kid shows well into teenagehood, I guess.
Yeah.
And it also helps that like a lot of the shit that I'm into is a lot of animated films and a lot of like really good like adventure films like that, which I watched well into teenagehood and didn't really see a lot of the stuff that was quote meant for me. But what that means is like Jay and them actually saw it as children, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is interesting. So we kind of have a little bit of a talking point on that sort of.
It does work, yeah.
People
And
are
again,
gonna
like
think I'm a
again,
pedophile or some shit. They're gonna think, oh, okay, Aiden's just weird. No, like, you gotta understand, there was a big part of my childhood where Cartoon Network was just doing like real life shows, and I was so excited to see like Adventure Time and regular show come back on the air, and I really liked those shows. They were pretty new and cool, but like, what 12-year-old actually be watching this shit?
mhm. And then meanwhile, like then there's like 8-year-old Parker and I who were watching that shit and loving it because it was a cartoon.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is. But then again, at the same time, we still do have that still 2000s culture where we remember shit in a certain way.
Mhm.
And I feel like also Zach's upbringing probably has an impact on that
Right.
side of things.
Because he wasn't
Because-
really like into a whole lot of media at the time,
Yeah.
or at least
Meanwhile,
not video games.
You, Parker, and I were. Like we were into like movies more, and like music is something that I've noticed like talking to you about, like what was popular back then.
Yeah.
That's been interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's always interesting to look at like people older than you and how they're different and alike. I just feel like you and I have like similar childhoods and like similar like we grew up in a similar time.
Something.
Meanwhile, my sister who like
Oh
go
yeah,
ahead.
she's a totally different generation. How old is she compared to you? Like how many years ahead?
My older one,
Yeah.
she's 10 years older than me.
Oh yeah.
So like she's in like a completely different generation. So like not only does she like remember the 2000s, like that was her teenage years to her.
Right, from a completely different perspective than you do.
From a completely different perspective, because that was my growing years. That was my I'm a kid, nothing matters. That was her I'm a teenager, oh shit phase. So that's kind of interesting. And that's going to be interesting when I get to like my little brother, or not my little nephew. He feels like a brother because he's like always been so close, but like my nephew is like I'm 10 years older than him, the oldest one. So like it's gonna be similar where he's gonna look back on the 2010s as his little kid years, and I'm gonna be like,
2010 were my moody years.
Yeah, I was like, that's my emo years.
Yeah. I don't have as much nostalgia for this past decade as I do the one before it, but I think that's just because like, even though I technically probably remember more stuff from this decade that came out, I'm not as nostalgic or gravitated toward it yet. I probably will eventually.
It's kind of the same for me. I guess kind of being born in 2002 kind of puts you in a weird spot in my opinion, because you kind of have that thing where like you have 8 years in the 2000s decade, but like then you kind of you spend most of then you remember all of the 2010s. But like for me personally, the 2010s kind of feel like a split decade where it's like I'm nostalgic for shit from like 2005 to like 2012. Rather than just the 2000s as a decade, if that makes sense. It's more of like the 2000s decade for most of it, and then a little smidge of 2010 is kind of lumped into what I'm nostalgic for.
Well, by the time you even had like cognitive memories, you were already halfway through that decade. You know?
So I think that's kind of why.
Whereas for me,
I kind of like look at it as a mixed thing.
Being born in '97, like I'd had memories of like anywhere starting from like 2002 or 3 and on, you know, whereas you kind of are like 6, 7, 8, right around that area. Which is
that's
different.
like where it starts for me.
And I think even on top of that too, like 10 years is a lot of time. It's even more time when you've already experienced 10 years. So I think for me, the 2000s decade just felt a lot smaller than it was, because I was like just sort of a kid at that point, and time just sort of passed by at the rate it did. But like, I don't know about you, but looking back on the 2010s, in 2010 I was a 5th or 6th grader in middle school. And now it's 2020 and I'm 22 and I'm doing this YouTube thing and I'm out of college. That happened in a span of 10 years, Jay. To me that feels way longer than 10 years, but I was like, the person I was then and the person I am now is so radically fucking different.
Well, that's what I was talking about like in a previous episode where we were talking about like how it's been 3 years, and this game came out when I was a freshman in high school, and now I'm 18, and like fuck, that feels like more than 10 years at some points, right?
It doesn't feel
because
fair.
I'm kind of in the same camp where you were like in 2010 I was what, 8, and I was in like 5th grade around that time. Now I'm 18. I'm out of high school. I could go to college now. I can get a job. I can get my driver's license. That doesn't feel like 10 years to me.
Whereas
it feels like fucking way longer.
Whereas like the 2000s decade, the way that we started that decade and ended that decade isn't really all that different. Okay, you were like,
no, not at all,
a fetus, and then you're like 5 or 6, but you really don't have memories of being a fetus or like 1 or 2. So it doesn't feel like that much time has passed, all things together. Whereas like I had cognitive memory like before 2010, and I remember the entire decade for once, and that really does fuck you up, I think.
I feel like
they're gonna be older
like
people in this shit. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, yeah, that's good for you. Wait till you're like 30 or 40 or some shit.
I was gonna say, I was probably gonna be like, if I talked to my sister, she'd probably say the same thing, but about the 2000s instead of the 90s.
Yeah.
Because she was born in 91. So like that would be like an interesting discussion to have with her. I will say something that's been interesting for me to watch as an older brother to my sister, because I have a younger sister as well who's 2 years younger than me. What's been interesting to watch in that case is seeing her kind of go through the same phases as me at like the same point
Interesting.
that I did, and it's been very interesting to see that.
I think me and Ethan were different enough at like every point that we never really had like that many circumstances that matched up a whole lot outside of school, right?
Yeah, for sure. And she and I are like completely the same because you know there's the gender difference, and there's there's still a big enough age difference to where those 2 years enough has happened since then to where she's going through a completely different, and even 2 years, that's not really like 2 years since I was going through that phase, right? That's more like 4 years because she's around that 14, 15 area. She's turning 16 this year. So like, it's more like 4 years since I really went through that kind of thing. But it is interesting to see her kind of still go through it.
Right.
And see like people grow up around you and be like, "Hey, I know how that feels." Because it especially helps because when you are that age, you kind of feel like nobody knows how you feel. So it is interesting to look at that like that.
It was wild and not too long ago because like we had a couple of family members come by with like their kids, right? And it's like we were kind of the first in like in my mom's side of the family to like have grandkids. So we came first, which means that like we didn't really have a whole lot of kids our age on that side of the family to talk to, right? They came far later. So a lot of them ended up being way younger, and they kind of got to know each other, but they never really got to know us. But it was interesting seeing some kids on the other side of the family come over and being like 6 or 7, and me having my Switch and Mario Odyssey. And I'm like, yo, you want to try to play Mario Odyssey? And I just assume, like, Mario Odyssey is an easy game. It's not that hard to figure out. It's a lot of fun. It'd be really interesting to watch, like, a kid play it, like the primary audience. And it was so... He just, like, got lost and messed around with the T-Rex for, like, 30 minutes. That's all he did.
Yeah.
He didn't make any progress in the game. He didn't go anywhere. I told him there was a T-Rex, and he went like, really? And then he went to check it out. He fucked around as the T-Rex and like goofed off and like fell off of cliffs and did everything you could possibly do wrong. And it's like, well, shoot, I remember playing video games at a young age. And then sure enough, if I ask, like, I was that way too. Just absolutely inept and like just kind of exploring and vibing my way through games, but not actually like really beating them or playing them like you're supposed to. So it's been really cool to see that now, of being like, oh, this is probably how I actually played games as a kid. And getting to see that through someone else is really cool.
That was wholesome as fuck.
Yeah.
That's great.
I didn't want him to break my Switch,
I'm
like, get off.
Yeah.
You break my
I'm kind of in an opposite camp where my family was like, oh, fuck this. Where my family was like the last, like my mom and dad were like the last people to have grandchildren, like children. And so like, whereas you're saying like, they got to, the younger group got to know each other, but they didn't really get to know you and Ethan.
Right.
It's kind of like the opposite where like, I had 2 cousins who, when I was like 5, they were like 12.
It's already
Which
long
5
adults now.
5 and 12, yeah, 5 and 12 is a radical difference.
Absolutely.
And so the oldest one was 12 and the youngest one was like 9, and 5 and 9 even is a huge difference. And so like I never really got to know them. Meanwhile, my sister, who again like was 10 years older, she got to know them, right? And she got to know them well. So like it's kind of lonely at a time also to like go over to visit, and then like my sister gets along with them well, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And like that could have happened too on my dad's side, because like the 12 and like 9-year-old was on my mom's side. On my dad's side, there's one who's like, I think he's 4 years older than me. And luckily he's kind of like you in the fact that he was into younger kid things well into teenagehood.
That just sounds so wrong to describe it.
It sounds awful,
It
but
sounds
you know
creepy,
exactly what I mean.
but I get you. Young at heart. That's the best way. Of
Yeah,
saying
he's
it.
like the kind of kid when he was 13, he'd invite me over to play Legos, and I'm like 9.
Yeah.
It's like we'd still goof around and do that kind of shit, and so that kind of helped. So I didn't feel too alone because he could have easily been like the 12-year-old, right? Who was
fuck you, younger kids.
who was like fuck you, younger kids. Yeah, younger kids suck. But no, he was very, very good at like I guess he probably knew, and there was a mixture of him probably knowing and also a mixture of him like being young at heart, like we talked about.
That's
So it was
that's
interesting.
Ethan now, where like Ethan can very easily, at the drop of a hat, snap back into that like young kid mode and remember all of that and being able to vibe. Whereas I very much have a harder time being like, I don't hide and seek really. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I got better shit to do. I got a video to film. Like, what do you? And then they'd like want to mess with my camera and my Switch, and I'm like, no, I spent a lot of money on this. I'm almost kind of a sad sack around children, but Ethan can hop right back into it and be like, yo, you like 5 or whatever, and you want to play a game? We're down to clown.
I personally really need to learn to not be a sad sack, because that's been my problem with like my younger nephew, who's the oldest. I love him to death. He's great, and I love interacting with him. But like, man, there are some times where I shut my door in his face, and I feel like, fuck, I remember my sister doing that to me, and I feel like trash. And I'm like, I really
They're
just shouldn't
annoying,
have
though.
done that.
Children are
But they're
annoying.
fucking annoying.
I don't remember being that annoying, but chances are I probably was annoying. So whatever.
Chances are there's a reason my sister shut me out of her room.
Maybe I'm
And
an
it's like-
asshole.
And it's like, I feel like an asshole too. That's my thing. It's like,
Right.
I really feel like an asshole for shutting the door. And I'm like, fuck. And like, he'll come over. He's like, can I play with your PlayStation 4? And I'm like,
No.
I'm like,
You got $400
Can
to
you-
replace it if you drop it. Like,
yeah. And it's like, can you? And then there's a point where I'm like, yeah, you can, right? But then it's like, I don't know, I'm so impatient. And he wants to fuck around in Spider-Man. It's been like 12 minutes, and I'm like, okay, are you done? It's like,
you're playing the game wrong. Let me show you.
yeah. And he doesn't do anything. He just swings around. I'm like, but that was probably me. So it's like,
yeah. I remember being at a daycare one time, and some older kid had brought their like GameCube and Wind Waker or whatever, and it's the first time I had seen the game before. And I remember kind of like just swimming around the ocean and vibing or whatever. And then like another little kid friend came to me. We were kind of like horseplaying it and running around. But the problem is one of the controllers was connected. And so I think one of us tripped on the wire and the whole fucking thing came tumbling down.
oh no.
Needless to say, I don't think homie brought back her GameCube after that, because
Oh no.
little kids like that aren't really paying attention to stuff like that. And I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think it was fine. Because GameCubes like that, I've dropped mine like 1,000 times. Those shits are
Oh yeah, I'm
resilient.
sure it was fine. It's just kind of like the,
Uh-oh.
oh fuck, I'm not doing that again.
Uh-oh. So, kids don't really like care for a lot of other people's property a lot of the time. They're just kind of like, ooh, thing, okay, cool, and then
I've also
roughhouse on it.
I've also noticed, and I hate to sound like a boomer, but fucking younger kids on them tablets and shit, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this on the recording, but I know we've talked about this like together before, and with Zach. But like, it's wild to me.
Yeah.
To think about that.
Yeah. I didn't have
Think about that.
I didn't have a phone until 7th grade. And then by the time
Same.
I got one, it wasn't even a smartphone. It wasn't a flip phone either. It was like a mid 2000s, like before the iPhone, where like it very much had a keyboard, kind of like a BlackBerry, kind of like a really shitty one screen BlackBerry that maybe had like Snake or something on it, and that was the only thing you could do. And like a Tetris version that you had to pay for to use. I'm like, fuck, I got Tetris at home. I don't need to do this. All it could really do was calls, and that was it. And eventually, like, I got an iPhone, like a hand-me-down one from my mom, right? But it'd be wild to be like going over to a kid's house, and clearly the parents have had it up to here with said kids. They're just like, I heard my old hand-me-down iPad here. Use this for a while, and you know what? It worked. They be on that iPad watching YouTube videos or playing like Angry
And it's
Birds or
just
some
like-
shit. I'm like, I
and
never
it's
had
'cause-
this. I had a Game Boy Advance SP. That was the closest I got.
Because I remember being a kid, and I remember like coming over to my grandma's house, and all I wanted to do was watch movies on her TV. Because sometimes she'd be letting me watch the good movies. You know what I mean?
Not the garbage
then my-
kitty shit.
Yeah, but then like my nephew started that way, but now the past couple times they come over, it's just fucking the tablet. And like I don't want to be boomer, right? And be like them kids and them phones, but them kids and them phones, bro.
No, my
It's
parents
insane.
absolutely did that to us with games. I'm convinced. Where it'd be like, because me and Ethan were roughly around the same age, right? So like,
Yeah.
if we were getting into something or being like really loud or whatever, we could be like, well, if you got us like a Game Boy or whatever, maybe, you know, that would work out. So it was kind of like a hidden agreement where like, yeah, they'd get us GameCubes and games and Game Boy Advances and all that stuff. But it'd kind of come with the understanding that like, all right, can you be quiet for a little bit?
For sure.
So
So there's a breaking discussion. We're on our way to start the next Divine Beast.
we are, yeah. We
Um,
talked to the Rito Elder and the new Rivali ancestor or whatever. Tebow? Is that his
I
name?
really Teba.
Teba.
We're going to talk to Teba, and I wanted to just kind of show off this nice little lodge right here because it's a nice little place on the map. We're sleeping real quick to rejuvenate our health. But yeah, again, I didn't want to like derail the conversation because I was enjoying it, but I do want to like point out that we are doing something
Yeah.
in this game.
We're doing actually plot shit that we probably should be talking about the characters, but like
Yeah,
a 5-minute conversation very quickly turned into a way bigger one. So
It's just a very interesting conversation, and Aden has a way about him of making you want to talk more about something you didn't think you were really interested in.
interested in talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I had a good time. So basically, the gist of it, since we were talking over it, the Divine Beast is acting up like per usual. You know, another Tuesday.
Big bird.
And we need to go talk to Teba, the guardian ancestor, the Sidon or the Yunobu of the Rito tribe. And I fucking love this guy.
Mm.
And I love this voice actor. Something about him. He on that emo shit, dude. I think that's what it is. He on that angsty ass, I'm the only person that can do this shit.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Look at this homie.
Look at him. The voice actor is really good. I'm jealous of the viewers. They get to
I
hear
don't
it.
know you,
We don't.
and I'm actually pretty busy here. You should probably
Speaking
go.
of teenage shit, right here.
Right?
This motherfucker. It all ties in, everybody. It's all intentional.
I don't know. I guess my thing is that it's like, it's not too surprising after we got epic anime protagonist archetype for Sidon, and then epic dumbass anime character with Yunobo, that it kind of makes sense we're getting epic edgy anime protagonist now, right?
I wonder what the fourth one gonna be. The girl. Yep, it's the girl.
Let me get this straight. Some random Hylian wants to help me bring down the Divine Beast Vametto. What's your name, stranger? I like this character. I'm of course, you know, you can probably tell now who my favorite character in animes are.
Where you're type.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always kind of done that though, right? It's the edgy characters that I like.
With the
And I feel like that's
backstory and skills that he doesn't even know he has.
I feel like that's something that most kids like too, but then they outgrow it. I didn't. I just ended up really still enjoying that type of character, the more edgy.
If I'm a kid at heart,
Edgy.
Jay an edgy 13-year-old at heart. You know?
Bruh.
Forever
You're absolutely
13.
right.
Forever 13.
You absolutely right, King. So this is what I was talking about. This quest is dope right here though. This is epic. 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 Woohoo! So we have to hit 5 mo-fucking targets. And let me tell you, kings and queens of the Stone Age, this is a fucking awesome part of the game. And as me being as me being an epic archer myself, this part is freaking awesome.
Let me guess, is that why you Is that what you like said things? Because it involves
Okay.
the bow.
So
for in the paraglider.
So let me talk about this. Let me talk about this. I like archery. I'm a fat lazy fuck, so I don't practice archery.
Right.
But I like archery. I think the bow is a really dope weapon. I think the idea of putting yourself on the line, I guess, in a way, on pulling back on an ineffective weapon, basically, as opposed to a sword, so you could just get your neck sliced open in like half a second. I find that dope. My favorite superhero is Green Arrow. So, like, obviously, I enjoy archery.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that the bow in this game be one of the best weapons, in my opinion.
It does control really well.
So, like, and it just so happens that one of my favorite characters in Breath of the Wild, who also on that edgy shit like we talked about, happens to be an archer.
It's a perfect match.
And it's just, it is. I don't know. I guess, like, my thing with archery is I just think it's a really dope concept. You know, if that makes sense. I don't know. I just feel like it's interesting and a really cool, and I think the weapon is cool. And again, like, the idea of, like, taking time to like survey your surroundings and everything. I don't know. I just find it very interesting. And again, I don't know when that crept up. I don't know if I don't know if Green Arrow is my favorite superhero because I like archery, or if I like archery because Green Arrow is my favorite superhero. It's kind of like a paradox where I can't figure out which one started. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I like archery. And man, if I get into shape one day, I will definitely do that. Because it's such an interesting thing. And I feel like I just love it. But there's some J trivia.
Ooh.
Bow and arrow's epic.
That do be some trivia.
Speaking of epic,
Oh,
this
shit.
shit's riding on the back of Sidon levels, bro.
We already
This
doing
shit-
the raid?
Dude, it's so quick. It's so fucking quick.
You're like, oh, just shoot a couple of targets. You shoot the targets. All right, well, I guess you're ready to go. You seem pretty prepared. You hit like 5 of those, right? So, you know, I guess you're ready.
Oh, something about this one, dude. I fucking love the Rito area, and I feel a little bit bad that we spent a lot of time talking instead of taking it in. But don't worry, we're gonna be coming back to this area a lot. We're not leaving for a little bit.
Ritos
So
are
that'll
epic.
be exciting.
They're probably, if not my favorite, like at least within the top 3 of like favorite Zelda races. Like Bird's epic,
Absolutely.
Bird people are epic, and I like, even though that they are kind of a stereotype a little bit in this game, I like their kind of you know, culture. I like their personalities a lot.
Mhm.
Even in Wind Waker, this game, whatever, Rito epic.
So, fun fact about the Rito village in this game, it's got my favorite. It's my favorite music in the entire game.
Oh really? I didn't know.
And it is it's a remix, or not really a remix, I guess, but like technically it is a remix, but like it's actually my my favorite Wind Waker theme redone. It is Rito, whatever the Rito village in Wind Waker was called, that island. It's that
Dragon
it's that
Roost?
theme done again. Dragon Roost, yeah.
Yeah.
Just in an orchestral way, like a slower, more ambient way, like the rest of this game. So
I haven't
It's
played
really
Wind
cool.
Waker, but you gotta admit that soundtrack slap.
I don't like Wind Waker. That's the only part of Wind Waker I think is dope.
The soundtrack slap. There's no denying facts, all right, Jay. This is.
We had a political episode, Aiden, and I'm more scared of me saying I don't like Wind Waker than I was throughout the entire.
Wow.
episode.
Yeah, gamers are a lot scarier than politicians. You'll come to find they're a lot more ravenous than you know, an old guy.
And I think I'm gonna spit a hot take.
Oh no, he gonna do it. He gonna do it.
I like this more than the Sidon one.
Ah, it's cool. I really like the side on one though, so it's hard for me to like say it's
That's fair.
It's
I feel
better
like
than the
Cy-
Redania one. How about that? I'll give
That's
that one for free.
no competition.
I'll give you that one.
I
for
feel
free.
I feel like set piece wise, it's just really dope.
It takes
that being
advantage of
said-
the environment, kind of like the water one does, where it's like you're swimming and you're going up things and you're using Cryonis in the same way. This is like, oh, you're up in the air using the paraglider, using bows. It's really good. It takes advantage of the set piece a lot.
Absolutely.
But I don't know.
That's
I really
really
like
dope.
Sidon, so
That's fair. I think these are easily the best too, right? And some of the best highlights of the game. So, have you seen this build up yet? Is this your first time
No,
seeing
this is my first time seeing that. I'm shocked at how quick
Okay.
this one is, though.
Yeah.
I thought for sure this one would have taken roughly at least, if not longer, than the other one. This is another one I probably could have done, like right after I did the water one.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think this beast is a little harder given the boss, but I probably could have done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I'm giving myself not a whole lot of credit. I thought a lot of these setups were uber complicated, and I thought the beasts were uber complicated. But Jay be showing me shit about this game. I didn't know.
I will say, like, I'm starting to think like the complicated or not complication, but like the level of complicatedness depends on if it's your first time doing it or not.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that's
Because
part of it.
if you did the Rito first, then you fuck my homie.
Looks like I got hit pretty good back there.
Oh shit! I forgot this happened.
I think I need to get back to the flight range. I just hope
Damn.
that
Yeah, it's probably good.
make it back. You head down to Meadow.
Thanks,
I'm
King.
gonna watch these cutscenes. I'm gonna watch these cutscenes after we're done recording. But no, yeah, I definitely think like if you were to do the Rito first, this would have been a much longer process. And but like once you start to get the rhythm down, you know where to go, you know who to talk to, you know what to do, and you do it. So that's why it's a lot faster.
Be making
But it's kind of dope.
points.
It's really freaking epic. Well, that's all for this time, guys.
Yeah, we're already at another Divine Beast episode. Can you believe that?
That's so insane.
When was you? Let me tell y'all this before we end it out. Jay been working ahead on some of these thumbnails, and he thought it'd be like LOL epic to make Divine Beast specific thumbnails, which I thought was a good idea.
And you've been seeing them.
Yeah,
You've been
yeah.
watching
You've
series, so.
seen the first two, so you'll see the next one next episode. But the thing is, he made these thumbnails before we got to it. You want to know what episode title it says on this original one right here? On the thumbnail that Jay made for this Divine Beast episode, he had to predict an episode of when we might do it. He wrote episode 25 on this shit.
22 is what we're gonna be doing this at. 22.
22. He was off by 3, which
That's
is still,
insane.
you know, it's close, but it's not quite what we thought it would be. So 22, yeah. And we
damn.
did side shit too. It's not like we went straight
We
for
did,
it.
yeah.
We did like 2 fucking shrine quests in a tower and exploration, and we had to walk all the way over here. So it's
It's
not like we
insane.
did nothing.
But yeah, episode 22.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see you in that episode, fellas
Yeah.
and ladies.
And femoids. How long will that
Bet you
episode
don't-
be? Anywhere between 10 minutes and 3 hours. So
We have no clue.
we'll see
So,
you there.
Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.